Hi guys, hi guys. How are we all? Jan, Faith, ye glad it was done. First thought Harry seemed to be really happy and relaxed. Sorry, I've just crashed in midway on a conversation there, haven't I? N. Higgins, Northern Ireland is actually sunny. That's nice. Lior, good morning. Denise Nelson Gale, morning Mark and lovely subs. Morning Denise, hope you and your family are well. Nadia, you can have a family guest. Stephanie Lang, you can have a family guest on. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not a fan of doing them on my own, if I'm honest. You need the sort of twisted larynx, I think, of me and Nadia trying it together. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Gabrielle N. Higgins, Lottie Howe, Derry Shaw, Claire Ross Reed. Morning Mark, love the new complication. That's an apt description of the marks by Gabby. I think some of us would love a mark. Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah, me and Nads are going to be reacting to Gabby Roos's. We were watching her sort of highlights on her Instagram. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to the compilation of marks, because it does morph, doesn't it? Nadia's mark into something quite unhuman and alien-like. But we've already had a chuckle. If you fancy another chuckle, check out me and Nads on my Instagram, Mark_Adderley, having corpsing, unable to hold our shit together. But coming up in the vlog is going to be a compilation of even more of those moments. So stay tuned. Tim, it was you who sent them off. Thank you so much, Tim. I loved it. It made the girls giggle. And maybe it should appear maybe in a future compilation. Leanna Aoki, breaking news, IS bride Shamima Begum should not be allowed to return to the UK to fight a decision to strip her of British citizenship. Well done, Cheza Babe, Sarah Elliott. Been watching 2019 vlogs, such carefree times, Ellen. They will be back. Carefree will be back. Careful for now, and then carefree. I think it will be carefree, carefully carefree. I think we'll be carefully carefree, don't you? What on earth was going on with your laughing post? Well, it was the probably 10th time we tried to sit looking nonchalantly on our sofa, and we just couldn't do it. I mean, as I say, Leo, we've got so many more of those coming up in the vlog. Claire Ross Reed. I'm sorry, I didn't. It just made me chuckle. The complication of because I am a complication, so don't worry. Julie Neal, is the chair okay next to bifoldable doors because of the sun? Yeah, the sun never really falls fully on the actual tapestry, but I will keep an eye on that, thank you. I'm a big one for moving, like, if you've got an artwork on the wall, like that painting by Kiki, you don't want it to fade, do you? Sally Griffin, hysterical belly laughs. Courtney Richardson, hi Mark, hi Courtney, hi Raspberry Mojito Girl. Yeah, so I think me, Nadia, and Nanny Di later tonight. I'm tired. I had a really difficult night. Thanks, Ava. Not difficult, but I didn't sleep well. Yeah, the three of us are going to be doing a reaction to the marks later today, and that'll be fun. Sorry, yes, the news. So the news, the big news today is Queenie, isn't it? Queenie throwing her crown into the ring and basically saying, go and get your bloody vaccination. It's selfish not to. I think there must be some serious concern about certain sections of society not getting vaccinated if they've got to roll the Queen out. I mean, she's got her husband's not well, she's old, and she must have she's got the Harry situation developing, and now they get old Queen Elizabeth out, Lizzie, and she sits there and says, some of the headlines are quite fun today, actually. Some quite puntastic headlines on the front of the papers. Let's have a look at some of them. What have we got here? It's not that one. The Sun says, right as rain, as in R-E-I-G-N. Do you get it? One's had one's jab, and one's right as rain. It's always nice to see the Queen laughing and smiling on the front of the Sun. She's smiling. One is not immune, instead of one is not amused. It's the front of the Metro. So get the fucking jab, says the Queen. She didn't use that language, but she may as well have done. Daily Mirror, do one's duty. Queen's vaccine plea. I thought for a moment she was going to say do one, but she says do one's duty. Strong message to anti-vax groups. She says think of others and get the jab. Queen's shock message, do your duty, get the jab. I think the Queen does look like she's lost a bit of weight, and she looks very happy, very cheery. And the front of the Times are also reporting that vaccination passports will be here by summer. EU leaders agreed last night to introduce vaccine certificates to make travelling within the EU possible and pave the way for further travel from third world countries into the EU. So, you know, that thing that we've talked a lot, haven't we, about vaccines and passports, and we've all gone a bit sort of, woo, a bit of, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. You heard it here first. It's kind of inevitable, and I don't see it as a, you know, people often talk about sort of loss of privacy and data. You know, if you have a smartphone, you've handed over more information about you than having a vaccination certificate. Believe me, you have. Lucy Heaney, Lady Gaga, I would die if something happened to my dog, and I completely understand how she feels, but if I was her dog walker, I would definitely want questions asked. I see what you're saying. Questions asked as in of the person who attacked him, or of Lady Gaga. I suppose when you're someone of that high enough profile, I haven't seen the James Corden with Prince Harry actually, no. Is that new? I'd look forward to seeing that. I suppose I'm trying to, what do you mean in terms of she needs to know more? I mean, a couple of thoughts I had about it were, obviously those dogs mean the world to Lady Gaga. It kind of makes sense that Lady Gaga doesn't walk her own dogs. Yeah, that makes sense. I have always worried that Lady Gaga is a little bit vulnerable after the whole, you know, singing at the inauguration and all that kind of stuff. And yes, and if you don't know, she's offered a $500,000 reward, no questions asked. I mean, yeah. And Lady Gaga has outlandish creations teacups. She does. She absolutely does outlandish creations. So what happened was Lady Gaga's dog walker got shot, and two of her dogs essentially kidnapped or have vanished. I think one of her dogs ran off and they managed to rescue it, and her dog walker is now in hospital. I think the questions that maybe should be asked, Lucy, are how was it known that he was Lady Gaga's dog walker? Because that immediately makes him sort of vulnerable, doesn't it? But I suppose if you know where roughly Lady Gaga lives, it's almost impossible to have a security arsenal around everyone who knows one person. Do you know what I mean? So it's extremely sad. It's extremely distressing. I think TMZ did that. There is footage somewhere. I saw on CNN of him being assaulted and shot 4 times. It was an automatic gun. I mean, you know, proper stuff. It does highlight the gun laws again in America. And it also puts you in mind of that. Although it takes a very light-hearted approach to the subject, well, it doesn't really take an approach to the subject. It's part of the film. If you haven't seen a film called Seven Psychopaths, check it out, because a lot of that pivots. The setting of that film pivots around dog nappers in LA. But I hear that in LA, you know, the rift between have and have-nots, which has always been great, has got even more extreme. So, be careful, be safe. I've heard there's a lot of dog crime. I mean, there's a lot of dog napping in this country. There you go, Monica Smith, it's up 250% here in the UK. There is a concern in taking dogs to parks and letting them off the lead. I mean, I'm hoping that ours are too old and Toffee's got too many bumps and lumps on her to be of any sort of, appeal. But you do have to be careful. You do have to be careful. And I know you hate it when we say Chi-Chi isn't a looker. I mean, she is in her soul. But I don't think she's high on a must-have list for dog nappers. But that is very distressing, isn't it? It's very distressing. It's very upsetting. And you just sort of think, God, what's the world come to? And you know, the poor guy who's been shot. It just, you know, I mean, how does he feel? How does he feel? Jane Bentley, I do not think it would be hard to follow the dog walker. We are creatures of habit. The dog walker probably went to the same places on set days. Now, it begs the question, I mean, if she gets the dogs back, no questions asked, will she be walking them again? You know, will they become house pets? Christine Saunderson, we have an 18-week cavapoo. It's worrying. Oh, the dog walker Lucy's posts photos on IG. Gaga in Rome shooting the Gucci movie. Oh God, so she's away from home as well. Yeah, well, I mean, oh God, I mean, it's always easy with hindsight, isn't it, to say, well, shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have done this, could have gone to a different place. I mean, those precautions will be taken now, so let's just hope that he shot 4 times. Let's just hope he's stable and he makes a safe recovery. So what are some of the other stories that are happening today? That's Lady Gaga, obviously. The Queen's call out, a very strong message there. I think, you know, everyone in government and higher levels are wanting as many people to vaccinate as much as possible to avoid any sort of chinks in our armour. But doctors, there's a piece about doctors, you know, burning out. And I think this is a really important thing to talk about, because apparently there's a lack. They need to recruit more doctors. You know, I was saying the other day there's a lot more nurses now, a lot more people applying to be nurses. Apparently we need a lot more doctors because, you know, I think doctors, I don't know if it's a doctors' union, but this is a society for doctors or organisation that represents doctors' issues and rights and what have you. Is saying that, you know, the burnout from COVID is massive, and a lot of these guys and women need proper breaks. They need a proper break from the front line, and so they need to get in. Now, I think, you know, without wishing to raise the spectre of Brexit and all that kind of stuff, I do worry that, you know, perhaps we've driven a lot of people away, a lot of viable people who could have worked for the NHS or did work for the NHS, who perhaps were from other countries. So, you know, are we perhaps in a situation where we need more hands on deck? No, Mandy Wilson, there's no wonder the doctors are burning out. I mean, it's hardly any surprise, is it? Nurses and doctors are burning out at the Royal Bournemouth Hospital. My God, that's where my nan was and my granddad was when they sadly passed. Really, Claire Ross-Reed. Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, is it? And I think, again, it's like we've talked about with PTSD. It's going to be the slow motion grinding to a halt, or the slow motion continuation of this there's been a huge sort of metaphorical car crash, hasn't there? And it's the slow motion after effects of the cars rolling on and rolling on and rolling on. You know, these are all the aftermath, the aftershocks, if you like. So Prince Harry's interview with James Corden, so I'm just reading Richard Coulter, is the one blaming the British press. Well, I did see that Harry was talking about the fact that it was because of the British press that he wanted to leave. I can understand him. You know, I think after everything that went on with his mum, I think we have to entertain the fact that that could be true. I mean, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Squaring, and I think this is what most people have a problem with. How do you square avoiding the press with being in the public eye? And I think the problem for them, and for him, is that he's never not going to be of interest to the public. So no matter what he says or does, he can't escape the public glare. But I suppose one thing he can do is try and control the extent to which his public profile is sort of presented and then analysed or dissected. And so I think in that sense, I've said it many times on here before, I think there doesn't have to be a contradiction between them not wanting to be publicly available for analysis by the press as royals, but that they're happier to perhaps have their own self-anointed kind of public profile. I think that's probably what's going on here. Jane Bentley, definitely Mark. Harry has been targeted since being born. Sam JP, don't blame him at all. Hounded after Diana, and then his choice of partner constantly scrutinised. I mean, Nadia often says this. She says, you know, it's as much about her being American as anything else. You know, there's a strange sort of British, sort of regal snobbery, I think. So yeah, but saying that we have all booked our second jab, which is good. Oh no, Laura Lawler, what's going on? Laura Lawler, what's going on? What is going on? Laura Lawler. are you? I just saw Laura Lawler go up. Breaking news, hundreds of Nigerian school children kidnapped. Oh my God, not again. Not again. Do you remember that awful story some years ago? I mean, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. Ava Greenall, but Harry is still caught in the interest of celebrity life. It's one thing to live a quiet life of privilege, but he doesn't. There are many royals who do live in their own lanes. Yeah, but is it, I hear what you're saying, but is it necessarily bad if him and his wife have ambitions that inadvertently intercept with the public, with a public profile, program making, whatever? She's an actress, you know, and that's just a necessary part of it. Maybe it's a different type of public profile that they're going to get. I mean, I see what you're saying. Maybe they don't want to live a quiet life of privilege. Maybe they want to live a creative life of privilege from one thing, but want to be established for something else. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think sometimes it's never quite as... I think it's easy for us just to see the optics on it and see the photos and see the articles, but, you know, you don't necessarily know what the intricacies of the situation are. You may have noticed, so yeah, Doctor's Burnout. So Doctor's Burnout, I think it's just spare a thought for the fact that, you know, all echelons and higher parts of the kind of medical establishment are struggling coming out of this. And we need to somehow think about how we can factor in a bit of a timeout. And I think that's one of the other reasons for not coming out of lockdown too soon, so that you can allow some breathing space. Because the thing about the NHS is, as soon as one crisis is over, and it has a capacity to fill, if you know what I mean. And it's never about it being empty enough for everyone to breathe enough. And I think for years to come now, because of COVID, it's going to be constantly full. So I think there's essentially no let up for the frontline workers in the NHS. There's going to be absolutely no let up. Jill Harbottle, you get your first jab tonight at 56. That's good. Well, thank you very much, Miss Dunn. Thank you very much, Miss Dunn. Mark, I cannot believe it. What I said to you about Valentine's not being a special day, just had a parcel from Amazon, 2 of Nad's books from my lovely hubby, Mandy Wilson. Oh, isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet? Your jab is booked. That's good. That's good. Well done. Oh, there's Strimmer Man. I'm a Strimmer Man. I'm a Strimmer. Right, the other story here is Mr. Potato Head. Who'd have thought he'd make the headlines? Now, Mr. Potato Head. The story is, and I feel a nostalgia push coming on here, Mr. Potato Head, who I remember as a child. Remember, you took his eyes and his nose and his ears. He was immortalised in Toy Story. A gender-neutral makeover is happening for Mr. Potato Head, so that it's just called Potato Head. It was launched 70 years ago, and they feel that the Mr., although there is a Mrs. as well, isn't there? The Mr. and Mrs. branding needs to acknowledge a more gender fluid. What do we think about that? Do we not think? I just wondered. Let me just chuck a thought in there. I wondered whether you could have all different types. I mean, I think for some, this is one of those things that's going to feel like it's gone far too far. I don't think I don't think the name was ever created. I mean, again, it goes back to that thing of intention, doesn't it? I don't think it was ever created as an act of barring or denying something else. Do you know what I mean? And Joe McKenna, surely we can just mix the Mr. and Mrs. pieces if we need to. Absolutely. They almost sit at two opposite ends of a broad spectrum, and you can go anywhere in between. I think these moments are where these topics make themselves vulnerable in a sense, because I think it becomes an easy target. And I just thought it was an intriguing one, because I personally, but I mean, you know, what do I know? I don't necessarily see how Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head is offensive. But, you know, obviously, is it Hasbro that's the toy manufacturer? Yeah, Hasbro have decided to... Hasbro issued a tweet saying, "Hold that tot, your main spud, Mr. Potato Head, isn't going anywhere." Well, it was announced today that the Potato Head brand name and logo are dropping the Mr. I am proud to confirm that Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head aren't going anywhere and will remain Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. I don't understand that. Is that... What reaction has there been? The rebrand has been seen as a progressive move by some and criticised as a PR stunt. Oh, that's interesting, by others. There is a movement around gender neutrality at the moment. A toy analyst said it's something that Hasbro's been addressing along with inclusivity. I'm all about inclusivity. So I think if it was a new toy that was being developed now, I think you would need to think about these things. But I think because it's something that's kind of its time, and has a sort of huge nostalgia hit to it, I mean, you know, otherwise, do you sort of, I mean, I suppose by the same standard, do you create Buzz Lightyears that have the capacity to be a sort of Buzzette Lightyear, or do you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's the thin end of the wedge. I just think there's something not right about it, but not right because of not being in pro inclusivity. It's one of those ones that really sort of it plays with your head and it plays with your mind. I like someone there saying, why don't we call it potato salad? I must remove my son's Mr. Potato Head immediately, says Sarah B. Anita Burke, ridiculous. Let's have a look. Nikki O'Keefe, my daughter takes no notice of its gender. She just loves to play with it. Louise Nevieux, sorry if I haven't pronounced your name correctly. There's always something that's of its time, but it's something that's easy to change. So why not? There you go. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the contrary argument is, are we all going to be mortally offended? And is the world going to change if Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head isn't called Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head anymore? I think my concern about these things is a little bit, if these things seem sort of pedantic and kind of unnecessary, I think it actually sets back the genuine debate and the genuine push for inclusivity. Lure, it's a potato. Yeah, someone else just said it's a bloody spud. The thing I always used to love about Mr. Potato Head was, and I remember being disappointed when I think I got my first one, is that of course on the box it looks like it's a pretend potato. Then you take them all out of the box and it's just bits. Of course you need to get the main bit. You've got to get the potato. But on that note, fire us some of your favourite toys, toddler toys. Now, I'm a kid of the 70s, and I used to have an Action Man, a bit of a nostalgia push. I used to have an Action Man, the one that you could see through his eye, though it was so small you couldn't really see through his eye. But it was supposed to, when you looked through his eye, enlarge things like a bionic eye. And did he have a right arm that would lift? This is the Bionic Man, and he'd lift an engine, a car engine. Playmobil, I was right into Playmobil. Friends of mine used to have all the bits for Playmobil, and I wanted them all. And I loved the way some of the figures, the human figures, would click onto horses. Do you remember that? Cindy doll, Julie Everett's, Hungry Hippos, the Fonz action figure. Wow, that's a good one. Who was that? Was that Tutel? Jean Tutel. Cindy doll. Stickle Bricks, Julie Wardle. Do you remember Stickle Bricks? They really stuck. Shearer and He-Man, Laura Lawler. Action Man with bendy fingers, Tim Reed. I remember that. Do you remember, what's that, Stretch Johnson? Kaplunk. Yeah, I used to love playing that with Izzy. Fuzzy Felt. I used to love Fuzzy Felt. God, the days when Etch-a-Sketch. Funny Felt. I remember Funny Felt being a very exciting thing. Very simple, wasn't it? You just got a black board with felt on it, and you just put felt on it. You'd make all sorts of different things. Back in the day when you wouldn't even be able to take a photograph of it, we'd just do it, and then you'd forget it. Buckaroo. Who else thinks that Buckaroo has possibly caused anxiety for a whole generation of kids? Because you spent a Buckaroo in operation. All you did was you survived on the edge of your nerves, didn't you? I remember getting so on edge with Operation and Buckaroo. It's just like, no. Connect 4 also, when they did the Connect 4 and they pull the bottom, you jump out of your skin. Tiny Tears doll. That wasn't quite my thing because I was Kaplunk. I had an Evil Knievel, and then it would just go forward a little bit, flip, and you'd fly off. Mousetrap. Mousetrap was good. That was all very exciting, wasn't it? The idea that these things all interconnected, though it never worked, and always halfway through the game, the bloody mousetrap would fall down, wouldn't it? And you'd spend ages trying to get it back on. And as you spent ages trying to get it back on, all of the points on the board where the items were stuck into the board would come apart. Windy Ballerina, Polly Pockets, Monopoly was a goodie. Shaker Maker, Penny Racers. I used to love the Corgi cars. Were they Corgi cars? Or what was the other name? No, Matchbox cars. I used to have so many cars. Play-Doh was wonderful. Scalextrics, Julie Franks. I had one of those and it worked once, and you used to have to get that bit underneath the front of the car to lodge into the groove of the metal, and then you'd fire it up, and then if you went round a bend too fast it would always fly off, and if it wasn't connected quite properly it would always fly. It promised so much, Scalextrics, and delivered so little. Spirograph. Jackie Valino, Spirograph. Pinned it, didn't you? You pin it, you'd have a go at your friends with the pin, and then you'd... So cool. Battleships, that was always good. Top Trumps, oh, I love Top Trumps. And you try and outdo each other with the kind of various qualities of the various things. Oh, I had the Top Trumps Monsters. Do you remember Monsters of Top Trumps? Spinning Tops, Noddy. I wasn't really into Noddy. Roller skates, yeah, I didn't really ever get into roller skates. I had a go. Meccano, Deborah Holdsworth. Yeah, Meccano was good. Subbuteo, I saw someone mention Subbuteo. I used to play Subbuteo all the time. I used to love it on my own. Every now and then I'd get a friend over, but they were never really into Subbuteo like I was. It's my uncle that got me into Subbuteo. Uno, I remember Uno was around then. Maddie and her friends loved playing Uno. The Slinky that always got stretched after just one go and then wouldn't work. That was the end of it. Shrinky Dinks. Simon Says, do you remember that? It was like the Close Encounters. Metal Filings, Sam JP. Yeah, you would have the face, wouldn't you? And then you would have a magnet, and you would make the beard, and you would make them bald, and you'd give them hair. Hot Wheels, that's it, Joe McKenna. Hot Wheels, marbles, and you put the 3 big marbles in a sort of pyramid, and then is that right? Or you put the little marbles in a pyramid, you roll the big ones. Toy soldiers, I used to love toy soldiers, plastic toy soldiers, but I used to really like the Airfix tiny ones. Does anyone else remember those? I was a bit strange. I really liked the tiny ones, and they all had to be to scale, and if I had a giant one, I didn't like that. That really messed up my head. I remember, I think my mum worked in Hamleys or something one summer or something when I was a kid, and I remember bringing home the 007, was it an Aston Martin, the car with the kind of bulletproof shield at the back in the ejector seat? And I had the guy in the ejector seat, and then of course I pressed the ejector seat and it worked so well, and I lost him. That was so frustrating, so frustrating. Trolls, they were good. Nadia loved Trolls. I was big on collectibles. Smurfs, do you remember the Smurfs? They were good. So many happy memories, Wendy Hill, aren't there? Fuzzy Felt, Weebies. I had a talking Bugs Bunny. You pulled a string, and he says, "What's up, Duck?" Still got it over 50 years later, Lynn Aoki. I bought one of those for Izzy when I was in New York once. Tip the waiter. Boy, girl, fruit, flower. What's that? Loved Smurfs. Loved the Wombles. Conkers. My mum made me the Conker champion. Did anyone else ever used to do that thing where you'd have a lollipop stick, and you'd have fights where you'd hold someone else would hold the lollipop stick and you'd try and break it, and you'd mark on it how many fights you'd won. So simple, isn't it? So simple.